Agreed.
Speaking of layers, the last layer of marketing would probably be what PR would be like. Of all the things we talked about, PR would be the not last. I'm not saying it's last. I'm just saying it's the last one we're talking about. PR, where does that land in terms of the cycle? Because we've really gone from like figuring out who the hell you are, your target audience, to brand awareness, to upsell, swinging both ways, and then PR. Like, where does PR fit with all of this situation?
I think it goes back to depending on what your brand is. Not everybody's going to need to do PR, right? Not everybody, like Kelsey doesn't need to do PR. Her business is an online business. I don't need to do PR, right? Whereas PR could be a lot more beneficial for you, Stoy, or the client that I was talking about this morning in the emails, right? PR is good for her because she's looking to get into businesses. She's an artist, right? So she's looking to get her art into different businesses and things like that. So again, I think it's what your goals are and what your industry is. I also think that PR is a lot of bullshit. PR fucking is bullshit and it irritates the hell out of me. And that's why I think a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do PR. But if your business really doesn't need PR, I just said 3 different businesses that would potentially need PR, but you have to understand what your business is in order to even go down that route. And then I see a lot of the times, and this shit pisses me off, I used to work with this client and she was like, you can do PR. It's the same as social. I'm like, no, it's fucking not. I was like, not at all. But I will say this, that PR and social feed each other. If you're doing a bunch of PR, a lot of that PR is posted on social, right? The backlinks to whatever that PR link is. So what are people going to do? They're going to go to your social. If your social looks like shit, then the PR doesn't make any sense. So it all goes hand in hand. But yeah, I think a lot of people try to tap into PR when they don't even need to.
Yeah, and some industries have to play the game. I hate it. I've tried to avoid it throughout my whole career so far. And now I'm in attacking it because you have to have, in the financial industry specifically, right, you have to have clout.
Exactly.
Why? Don't ask me why.
I don't.
I'm still thinking that comes from the ultra wealthy. And
listen, we don't make the rules.
Right? We don't make the rules. You got to play the game, right? And it's part of the game. So that's why PR is bullshit, in my opinion, too. It's just a game. It's just media. It is purely political and clout based. Regardless of, I've seen some really shitty companies and people have amazing clout and PR, and they're terrible at their actual service.
You just took the next thought out of my head.
But people follow them and they get it. So I think it is important. I think depending on what industry you're in, it definitely needs to be there, but it's not for everyone. So don't think you have to do it.
Yeah, it really depends. It really does. And I agree. I think with financial advisors, yeah, it helps, but that's why I'm so big into what you do, Stoy, and how you do things differently, because a lot of that stuff is becoming played out. People are getting a lot smarter, believe it or not. People are able to see through the bullshit. And so even if those even if those businesses who are having killer PR and killer social, yeah, they're going to get the clients in, but guess what's going to happen? They're going to lose those fucking clients. Yep. The sustainability is not there because you can't back your shit up. Kelsey and I were talking about this just yesterday. I was like, I know that both of us would like things to move a little faster, but when we look at the people in our industry, in the coaching industry specifically, that have had big pops and shit has moved really quick for them, every single one of them are burnt out on the industry and they're all fucking floundering. Whereas we've had a little bit of a slower growth, but guess what that means? Sustainability, baby. Sustainability. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think from a coaching and mindset perspective too, it goes back to what do you need and why do you think you need it? So why do you think you need PR for your personal brand right now or your company? What's your purpose and intention behind it? And then we can decide if that's a good next step or not.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of people that make decisions, especially in the online business space, because they see other people doing something. And again, it's all modeling. Success leaves clues, right? So we see people doing things or we perceive that they're ahead of us. We're like, okay, I need to invest in PR because they're investing in PR. And if I want to get to that level, but again, let's understand, why do you think you need that? And what's your purpose and intention behind it? Because maybe you just need a better marketing strategy, or maybe you just need to
Go
be
back
more
to
go back to the basics and be more repetitive in your messaging, right? Let's actually find where the holes are, and then we can decide what the right solution is.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you were when you asked me before, Story, about the platforms and like where do you start kind of thing. The biggest thing you guys will get preached to, we've gotten preached, consistency. Consistency is key. And consistency is key, but consistency looks really different for everybody. And so maybe consistent for me is, okay, I can consistently post 2 times a week and that works for me, right? And I'll eventually get better and better, but you have to find that groove with consistency too. And when it comes to getting on those platforms and what platforms you should be on, if you are not experienced with Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, then do not get on every single one of those platforms. Start with one, like Kelsey said, master the one, and then you move on to the next. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect at that, but have a solid understanding of whatever platform you're on before you move to the next. And then you can start, again, like Kelsey said, start folding more things into the strategy. But master one thing at a time, especially with those platforms, because they're hard to keep up with. And so we try to keep up with all of them. Luckily, I have experience with every single platform. Hello, that's my job. But that doesn't mean that I need to utilize every single platform. And so I want people to be really clear on that too.
I think it's a normal human flaw. We want to rush our process.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how can I get there faster? Oh, I'll get there faster by doing all the things. And I'm going to try and do all the things all at once. But at the end of the day, then it's a capacity issue.
Exactly.
Do you actually have the capacity for that output that you're expecting of yourself?
And
right?
what's the intention behind that too? Like
it all goes back to those layers, right? Is what are you trying to do with this, and how can you be realistic about it to get to a point where you can layer in other avenues?
Totally. I agree.
You keep talking about layers, you keep talking about one thing at a time, and all of that screams to me is this thing's a journey, right? And I bring it up all the time from the financial perspective is this whole thing's a journey, and it's a long-term game. It is not short-term, right? Can't get rich quick. You should download that guide. You really can't do it that way. However, this question pops up all the time, and I get it from a lot of my business owner clients. I've asked this question a million times as well, and that being, is it really worth the cost in marketing? Is it really worth to pay for any of this kinds of marketing, let alone all of it, on a continuing basis when I don't know what type of return I'm going to get, right?
I can answer.
You ready for this one? Explain to me why in your damn industry we cannot do performance-based. Please tell me.
Opens up LinkedIn posts from 4 days ago. All right, here's the deal. Okay, because listen, it's the same for me, right? So in my industry, I am always getting cut first, right? Anytime somebody I'm having struggles financially, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to cut marketing. It never fails, right? But most of those companies are not doing anything outside of digital marketing. They're not doing in-person marketing. They're not going to networking events. They're not whatever. They're not doing traditional marketing. And so what I end up seeing is like, okay, you want to make more money, but you're cutting your main source to get seen to make said money. And so I get it. Like I can't give you an ROI on this. I'm never going to be able to say you're going to make X amount of money from social, even if you're running ads, right? We're going through it now. Even if we're running ads, I still can't dive into, hey, this is what your ROI is going to be. But what I can say in terms of ROI, and like you said, Soy, it's a journey. It's really that brand awareness above all. And again, most people I think that are going to be listening to this podcast have businesses where their services are not a necessity. It is not a now thing. And so you need to continue to dive into your marketing and have that awareness because people are eventually going to need you. When you cut that shit out, how the fuck am I going to find you? Oh, good SEO. Hopefully, like that's a whole other layer. And so I get it. It's something that is hard. It's the biggest question I get in my job, and I can never give a straight answer because this is the answer I give them, right? My straight answer is I can't give you that ROI. I'm not going to tell you a certain number, but what I can tell you is that your brand's going to be more known. People are going to look at you like I hate the fucking term, authority figure in your business. Well, that's what marketing is for. The ROI on marketing is for the long game. It's for the future. It's for, again, if you, Stoy, perfect example. Stoy's ideal market before was probably people who were older in their business. And I'm thinking you weren't doing women and minorities prior. And so when I think about that, okay, yeah, you might have been able to get clientele from word of mouth because that's how the older generation works. We are not in the older generation anymore. Baby boomers, bye. Millennials, hi. And so we need to tap into that. And so if you're not investing in your marketing, you're not hitting that demographic. And this demographic is this generation as a whole is all about marketing. We're all about marketing. If you're not targeting us in a digital way, you're not reaching us. So you can cut it, but you're stifling your growth. Marketing, you'll eventually get an ROI on it, right? I did this with one of my clients. I've been working with them for 5 years. I finally can show them a little bit of money ROI, but that's been 5 years. So that's my answer. The shit makes me so fucking mad.
I think that's to me is just like, when we talk about like why marketing feels icky or why sales feels icky is when people are promising results that they can't promise.
That's it. We can't, I can't dictate what the algorithm's going to do. Also, again, this is why you have to look at your whole funnel. People automatically were like, oh, I'm not getting any traction. I don't want my marketing. I'm cutting it. Okay, but what if I'm showing you monthly metrics that says that we are getting that traffic, where in your funnel is wrong? I had a client I did this with, and I did it purposely. I was like, I'm hammering this shit fucking home. I'm getting them to understand this. So I was like, hey guys, I drove almost 8,000 leads this year to your website. 8,000 leads that could have resulted in a minimum of $1,000 per person. They're clicking, they're on your website. Why are they not pressing buy? Oh, I don't know, because your website fucking sucks. Like your website is terrible. And so again, you got to use marketing in order to really see the holes in your funnel so that you can adjust. But marketing should never be off the table. Unless your stepdad's a doctor, he was in private practice for 40 years. He didn't need no marketing, right? It's different. It's, again, the industry. I've worked with a lot of healthcare. I have gotten leads for medical billing companies. They don't necessarily need social, right? They don't need that digital footprint necessarily, but the marketing would help them. It really comes down, I think everybody for the most part needs that marketing, and people need to they need to stop cutting it, because how else are you going to be found?
If we think about it, marketing is communication.
That's it.
And visibility. And so you have to have a presence somewhere. You have to be seen.
Yep.
Right? It's where do you want to be seen and by whom?
And
right?
Not to mention, if you want to like really think about it, everybody was using traditional marketing in the past. That's way more expensive than today's marketing. That's way more expensive. I also think people don't understand
ads and commercials. But again, if we actually think about it, most of that is product based.
That's true. That's true.
So if we think about it, if we're thinking service based, which a lot of us do, is offer services, we need, like, me running some sort of like commercial or print ad wouldn't land. But me being a human being and communicating some of my skills is going to land with someone. So they think, okay, when I'm in a mindset space or like I'm at a block in my business, I feel like I'm hitting a plateau, Kelsey is going to poke holes in where I'm stuck and help me get some direction, because that's like my specialty.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, it all depends on what you do and who you serve. It goes back to the basics. Let's get the basics hammered out first. And then we can decide what your delivery is and where you should be positioning yourself. Even with Christina in healthcare, right? It's healthcare, but it's specialty healthcare. Mm-hmm. If we really wanted to get specific, it's not like traditional doctors. It's a lot of dermatologists or estheticians or spas or whatever. So it's specialty healthcare where they offer a specific service.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Performance-based isn't a thing. We can't get some performance-based is what you're saying. That's cool. That's fine. That's whatever.
You can, metrics tell you a lot. I think it's, the problem is I can give you ROI in terms of growth on social. Like I can send you monthly metrics so that you're going to see where you're at and how you're performing. But most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that ROI isn't going to turn into money.
No.
Metrics doesn't always, okay, that's the problem though. If we actually really want to unpack this, the problem is
I feel like that Shaq
metrics,
meme.
like metrics don't equal what?
The Shaq meme where, yeah, I know it. Have you ever seen it? It's so funny.
I'm the Shaq meme?
No, me.
He's always fucking
Always doing
shimmying.
that.
He's
Always doing
always shimmying. I don't know why.
Getting you all hot and bothered here. No, but I think that's the problem is when people try to connect metrics and visibility to a dollar figure.
Exactly.
And I've seen plenty of people who have like massive following, but the income that they're bringing in isn't what you would think it would be with the amount of traction that they have on social media. So we can't, there's just like little birdie, insider information here, but it's, you can't make that promise though. And I think that's what happens a lot of times with these coaches.
Yeah.
And that's how their business blows up because they connect the going viral with an income. And it's just, you can't, they're not mutually exclusive. Does it help? Sure. Is it guaranteed? No.
But we have to figure a way to have this communication and this conversation clear because every financial person is going to tie it back to a dollar.
I know.
Work with business owners, we have to see some type of return because every minute matters, every hour matters, every dollar matters. Like it has to have some type of return. Whatever that looks like, obviously it could be dependent on your industry, but that I believe is the biggest disconnect from the marketing industry in just business in general is the fact that we are spending, and by the way, everyone, I think you should spend around 20% of your budget on marketing. Okay. Up or down, depending what your goals are, where cycle you're in and how much income and all that. But about 20% is where it should lie. That being said, though, we need to tie it to something, right? That's the only way that it can financially make sense to the rest of the world is how I'm spending 20% of my budget. What am I getting in a return?
You're doing financial plans for people, throwing it back at you question wise. What are you looking for? What are they looking for exactly? But what does that look like? Is it you're getting sales directly from social or your marketing efforts? Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, and that's what everyone wants, right? They want sales at the end of the day. One way or another, they want to repeat it back to sales. I don't talk to them about that.
Yeah.
I don't think that is a really good metric, actually, because I don't believe anyone is in control of you telling someone, yes, they should sell or they should buy, right? We're not really in control of that. I don't care what anyone says. You are not in control of someone's brain to push the button yes.
No.
Okay. Can we influence them? Can we add everything we possibly can to make the probability higher? Yes. However, we can't push that button. So for me, the metric that drives the most and what I'm looking for is how much engagement is happening within wherever you in your funnel leads them to all of the information to influence them to push the button.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Is that your website? Is that your social media? Is whatever that is? That is what matters because that's the only thing that I believe we really can control. And what I mean control is we don't actually have control, but we can do things to influence that a lot more. Once it's there, then we can influence someone to say yes or no, because by the time they get to the site, they're already majority of the way saying yes or no, really. They're just going to verify one thing.
Yeah. If you're a product-based business, ROI is going to look a little different for you, like using social as the example. So if you're a product-based business and you have a TikTok shop or like an Instagram store, right? Yeah, those are all doing things to get more traction. But if you're a service-based, I like to go off for my clients. I really like to look. I did it with you yesterday. I was like, let me look at your website traffic really quick. And so to me, that at least gives me a little bit better of idea about that conversion and where we can adjust. But again, it depends on what your actual product is. And so that's why I say, I'm not saying it's easier by any means to market a product, but I think that you can get more of a tangible number if you have an actual product, I don't know, a t-shirt shop, right? I think that you can tie back to social a little easier than a service-based business, which all of us are, including the people that are listening to this podcast.
And I think it compounds over time too. You have to look at like how your marketing compounds over time. I think a lot of people look at the content that they put out and look at it like in a vacuum. They look at each individual piece of content. It's how is your content performing over the past 30 days or 60 days? And what type of inquiries are you getting from that?
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when I see people steal my formula to make how I make X amount of dollars per reel. It's like,
Blech.
like it's that all feels like clickbaity to me. And it's just, I don't know. It just feels, again, for me, integrity in my marketing is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to make sales consistently in my business without using how much money I make as a selling point to work with me.
That's been super hot lately across all industries, by the way.
All industries. Yeah,
all
it's just like, I
including my
see it.
own, which is
Really?
Oh,
even nicer.
really?
Well, yeah, because okay, we're doing it. We're diving in.
I
We
need to
got
know.
people. Here we go. Yeah,
I'm
so
like, we see it
right
all
now,
the time in the coaching
Yeah.
industry. I'm like
Always.
desensitized to it. I'm like, ew, that's gross. Anyone can do that and say that. And we don't even know how much money you're making.
there's a huge run right now on, and a lot of my colleagues were working on trying to call it all out as much as we can, but there's a huge run in TikTok and Instagram for personal financial coaches or personal financial experts. And these people are either just random ass people or those who used to have a license. But when you don't have a license in our industry, there's no regulatory body telling you can say or do whatever you want.
Yep.
So they're guaranteeing them results on, from a financial perspective, you're going to make X if you do this, or you should do this life insurance thing because it's going to make you X, or if you buy this stock, you're going to make X. Obviously, the biggest one right now is going around is if you do this crypto, you're going to make X, right? And it's been the hardest thing in our industry because we haven't been, except for, I think about 9-12 months ago, we've never been able to have testimonials. We've never been able to really go on TikTok and call things out like this because the SEC and our regulations have not wanted that out there. Now that there's this big run on this fake shit going on, we are now able to do more TikTok. We are now able to have testimonials for the first time. And so we're trying to figure out what's the best way of attacking this issue without being those rich white people who go, I don't like this, so I'm going to squash it with my money.
Well, lucky for you.
That's not what's happening, right? So even our industry, it's being hit very hard with that same exact stuff. And it's beyond nauseating. And I believe a lot of it actually is bot based, honestly. Probably. I think a lot of it's being ran from whether you go conspiracy with China and Russia, but it really looks more like that than it does as a person.
It's also dangerous. It's dangerous as fuck. We were talking about you see all these health and fitness coaches with no credentials giving nutrition advice. I know.
I'm done. Like how unhinged do we want to get? That shit has pissed me off since day fucking one. You lost 10 pounds and now you're qualified to coach people on weight loss? Get the fuck out of here. Do you even have a personal training certification? Do you understand nutrition? Like, you're putting someone's life in your hands. Again, I get really fucking fired up.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, certain certifications do matter. If you actually care about your clients, like Stoy, I'm sure you get pissed off with these fucking money mindset coaches.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like, I balanced my checkbook today. Like, I'm qualified to coach you on your finances. Get out of here.
Cute. Yeah. Like, move on, please.
But then there's people like us that have integrity, and we're not willing to compromise on our values to just say some shit, blow some smoke up your ass. Well, essentially is what's happening.
Well, that's in my industry. Sorry.
That's where the frustration comes from as a business owner in the marketing realm, right? I'm doing everything as perfect as we possibly can, doing all this stuff. And then you look over on TikTok and there's a video of someone saying, I guarantee you'll lose 30 pounds in the next 12 days. All you do is don't eat. They got like 14 million views. And you're like, first of all, anyone who knows, I don't know, the body would know that is a terrible idea. Where we're giving great advice and it seems like you get 300 people. Because that's, from a business owner, is very frustrating.
Because the basics work and selling the basics isn't sexy. That, long story short, that's what it is.
Yep.
Is you have to make the basics feel sexy to your ideal client. Otherwise, they're going to buy into the bells and whistles every time. And I think that's what you're really saying here is the basics and success being a long game, and really just looking at entrepreneurship and marketing and every business decision you make as a journey. It all comes back to the basics. And if we're talking even as simple as weight loss, it comes back to the basics.
Yeah.
And that was something for me. I'm not going to compromise on my integrity. I know what fucking works. When you're ready to stop banging your head against the wall, I'm here. You're going to remember me because I'm making the basics look sexy.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you have to, yes, I understand. It is frustrating. I have not met not one person who has been doing social media marketing as long as I have. Not one person. But yeah, I see these raggedy ass social media managers blowing up on Instagram and launching these coaching businesses and giving fucking bad advice. And so you need to ask yourself, is my integrity more important to me? Because me and Kelsey were talking about this yesterday. I could easily go on Instagram, talk about the money I've made. I can talk about XYZ and I can make more money, but that doesn't align with the integrity of who I am. And so you have to ask yourself, do I want short, quick success, or do I want sustainable growth in my business? And if sustainable growth is what you want, you're going to see a lot of that bullshit. All you guys can do, especially as financial advisors, is to continue to educate. But you guys need to educate. No, I'm like, you guys need to educate.
You're just fired up for next week. That's all it is.
Woo, I am fired up.
You're going to get on that stage and be like, listen here, motherfucker. You need to do this.
Oh, yeah. I wish I'm taping that shit because I already know I'm going to go off in this presentation. And it's just because, but you have to think about the shit that people care about. So if somebody's, okay, and so person A, right? Oh, I'm going to teach you how to lose 30 pounds in 10 days. Okay. Person B, right? The other marketer knows that's bullshit. So you need to go on and say, hey, this is why losing 30 pounds in 10 days is fucking bullshit, right? You got to combat the shit. You got to put your personality out there. You got to put your opinion out there. And so from a marketing aspect, if you guys want to compete with these get rich quick people, like, you got to talk about that stuff because that's the stuff people are looking for. Just like we did with your videos, right, Story? We said how to get rich quick as a clickbait, right? I actually laughed because Story was like, want to know how to get rich quick? Eyebrow raise. Be lucky. Like, right? It was perfect, right? But then we talked about it. So if you're going to create content, like, you got to combat that bullshit you're hearing. And it is going to be a long game. And a lot of people aren't going to believe you. But those are the people you don't want to work with anyway.
Yeah, and I try to tell my colleagues all this. I said, you have to play that game.
You do have to.
We all have to play that game together because if the majority of us are doing it and we're being loud, we're doing this collectively, which will go a lot further than one of us trying to go off because then we'll just get attacked, right? But if you're coming together and I know there's at least 15 of us that always attack it, and they're the ones that were on my 12 days of giving.
Oh yeah.
Like, coming together and backing each other through that is going to help change what we need to do in our industry because our industry is a crock of shit. Like, we need that. We need to be able to confront the bullshit. And some of that bullshit comes from the institutions that have trillions of dollars.
I know.
Let's be real. Like, a lot of that comes from them too. That needs to be combated. And ultimately, it has to be a long-term gain. It's the long game. And we have to play the game. If you're not playing the game, you're not in the game. And if you're not in the game, you're not making money. You're not surviving. You'll fail. It just is a matter of time.
I play the game.
A lot of us are, if we're relatively speaking, small fish in a big pond. Right. So it's, again, you're not for everyone, but the people you are for, you're going to be for. So it's, as long as you're clear on that and you keep speaking to them and creating content for them and having that message out there for them, it doesn't matter because there's enough success to go around.
I agree.
So yeah, you're going to be against these like people that have opinions to the far left of where you're at, or like the opposite end of the spectrum. But as long as you're clear and solid in your opinions and your messaging and getting that out there, success is a long game. And if that's something that you firmly believe, then that should be like consistent part of what you're putting out there. So you're starting to educate people on how to do it.
And you got to trust that people, like, you got to trust that people will be able to identify the bullshit. You got to trust, right? I think a lot of people like don't trust like the people that they're marketing to. And it's like, we
all have trust issues.
Yeah, we all have trust issues. And but you have to trust that they're able to make those informed decisions. I've seen people, especially in my industry, anytime a client comes to me and says, oh, I want to gain X amount of followers in X amount of time, I'm like, peace. Like, we're out of here. But what I will do is educate them. I educate them further. And if they decide that, oh, Christina's right, I'm going to work with her. And if they when they decide against me, they always come back because they're like, oh, wait, but you have to trust that your ideal client is able to make that decision on their own. All you can do, show up, put content out there that you actually believe in and that you really stand for, and hope for the best, hope and pray. Like, that's it. Once it's out there, it's beyond your control. You have no control over it anymore. And so I always just say, show up with the integrity of what you believe in. Because yeah, you can make more money quick if you want to do that, but that's not going to align with who you are as a person or your values. And that will bleed over into like your business too. I don't want that shit.
Right.
I think too, like to the tangible, like followers, when someone says, oh, I want to grow my account by 10,000, or I want to hit 10,000 followers. It's like, why? First of all, what is your purpose and intention behind that? What is that going to do for you? Do you just want to hit that to stroke your ego, or is that what's that going to translate to? But I think it's understanding, yes, those tangible goals, like we're all driven by like tangible metrics. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, is that what you really want? Or do you want to learn how to create better content? Do you want to learn how to message better? Because what if you could still sell to a smaller audience and you never needed that number in the first place, right? So let's break it down. Sure, that's a great goal if we're talking about scaling and reach and exposure. But ultimately, you can have all the exposure in the world and still not be converting.
Yeah.
And so it's, what do you want more?
And we've seen it with two different entrepreneurs in the last week who have these big followings, and you would think, oh, they're bringing in hella money. And it's no, they can barely touch 2K months.
Like I'm not even joking. I had a client, she 60x'd her following. 60x. She went from 1,500 followers to 94,000.
No, I think she's closer to 100.
She's probably closer to 100 because once you hit that following, it can
takes off.
Yeah, once you hit that point in the algorithm. But income wise, she's basically where she was.
I talked about this on my stories the other night.
And it's not her fault, but it's not just about hitting that.
But it also, this is like diverting a little bit, but because Kelsey and I were talking about this specific client the other day, and I'm like, see, the problem is a lot of the times when you see these accounts like blow up and they're not converting, they also don't have the foundation for their business down. But even if you have, I said it on my stories the other day, I said, if 100,000 followers came to your account tomorrow and you had that, would you be able to even handle the influx of those inquiries? Does your business even have the foundation to handle that? And most people, no, they don't. I could. I'm ready. Let's do it, right? But my point is too, there's so many levels to this shit. There's so many layers. And it's like, you got to make sure the foundation of your business is even good before all that other shit can happen. And I feel like the reason why like client A and B that we were talking about aren't converting is because the foundation of their businesses aren't even figured out.
And let's be real. I would say majority of my clients and my colleagues' clients find us on socials, but don't necessarily like or follow or any of that. They're just seeing our content and then they become clients. And guess what? Those aren't tracked. Those aren't one of those 100,000, right?
Yes.
And that's what's important too. And
we all have invisible metrics that are converting.
You have invisible shit. No, you don't know what you don't know.
Engage. I talk about this so fucking much. Think like people get so caught up in engagement, and I get it, right? Like I want more engagement. We all want more engagement. But then I think about, Christina, how do you engage? I don't like shit. Like I don't like shit. I don't like shit.
You just remember, right? But good marketing makes you memorable.
Exactly. It doesn't, just because I didn't tap or because I didn't tap share or tap save does not mean I'm not consuming the information. I'm still consuming it. So going back to why you need to be on social media is because people are still consuming it. We've had people come through for my one client and they've come from social, but they don't, and then people won't even say they came from social, right? You just never know. But the point is repetitiveness. And they say it for you, the age-old marketing term, you got to repeat yourself like 7 times before it's going to even sink into somebody.
I think it's like closer to 21
now
because we're so like ADHD.
Yeah.
Like
including us.
In our consumption, like in our processing, like it takes actually longer for things to land than it used to.
Right. And so that's why people are still consuming that information. And again, it just goes back to none of us have a service that is like life or death. You don't need it. Or I don't have this these hot new Yeezys. Did anybody else see that, by the way? Like, Kanye West, crazy. We'll talk about it afterward. But no, from a marketing standpoint, it was like genius. But the point is, we don't have a service that is what they need in this moment exactly now. Even if in our mind, we're like, this is a need now, the consumer doesn't know that. And so if you're not repeating yourself, if you're not getting the information out there, then they have nothing to consume in the first place. And I think that's where people really miss the mark. Even though Stoy does a lot of content, and I'm always like, you do so much fucking posting. It's out there. People are consuming it. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that translate more and more, right? We're seeing things pick up because we're putting it out there. Doesn't matter if it doesn't hit or not, it's going to hit with somebody at some point in time, whether it's now or 6 months down the line.
Also, fun fact, don't post every hour. None of them like it.
Yeah.
I think something too that's really interesting is like when you're genuinely excited about it and you treat it as an experiment, like Christina and I are both playing around with our TikToks, right? Yeah. I've gained like 2,000, 3,000 TikTok followers in the past 60 days.
Oh yeah.
Just because I'm like playing around with how I want to use my TikTok. And what's interesting about TikTok specifically, and I'm sure Reels work the same way, is if you draw someone into a consumption binge, they find your page. They're like, I found this one video that you made and I loved it. They're going to check out your other videos. So it's like, videos from 6 months ago are getting traction. Like I'm getting views on multiple different videos, but again, you've sucked someone in, you hook them.
Yeah.
They like your personality. They're going to consume the rest of your content. So it's, again, going back to what I said earlier, it's never about how one piece of content performs. Mm-hmm. That one piece of content can perform over time. But the main point is going back to repetition. If you are very specific in what you do, like you are, Stoy, and I would imagine all the financial planners listening to this, it's like your content should focus around the problem you solve.
Yeah.
So that when people come in, we can never say it's one piece of content that sold someone. Because honestly, when I ask people, what made you excited to work with me? They'll be like, I've been following you for years. I've been following you for years. I've been following your journey. I had a dream about you. Oddly enough, like I get that. It sounds really weird. I'm like, I'm beyond that right now. I'm like just in I'm astro marketing. But they'll be like, I've been consuming your content for years. I had a dream about you, or I just knew it was my time.
Yeah.
Like I knew it was time. And it's, again, you can't gauge your client's level of readiness. All you can do is position yourself
for when they're ready.
They're ready.
Dude, I wish I got that kind of feedback every time. I'm like, so why'd you decide to work with me? They're like, you're just a vibe. I'm just like, okay, I can't market a vibe. I can.
Like, let's break this down. Give me some more. I'm doing some market research here.
Nothing.
Like, I can't be in everyone's dreams.
I
can't be everyone's dream girl.
That's all I get. It's you're a vibe, and I just trust you. You know what you're talking about.
Christina's a vibe. Kelsey's in the stars.
Just like
you're a thirst trap.
I'm everywhere and nowhere all at once.
All at once. I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm everywhere.
Just get paid to exist. That's my thing, right?
Also, totally off topic. Stoy is next to me in our video chat right now, and I'm like, we really look like siblings.
I mean, it's in there. It's in there somewhere. It's got to be. We got to figure that out.
Oh, that's not for the podcast. But
that's not for the podcast.
I'll share what I found. We might actually be related.
Oh boy. So as we round this one out, because this is going to be a two-parter, most likely.
Probably should be.
Almost an hour and a half into it. What do you two specifically want to leave with? So this person that usually is watching the content might be advisors, but are usually business owners who are ready to take this next step, right? Maybe they've never worked with one of us before, or they have and they have a bad taste. Take that person and guide them into this next step of being able to take the next step into what you guys do to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you want to leave them with? There's only a little bit that we only covered a couple things.
I think for me, it's like, if you are like, I get it. I've seen so many business owners get screwed over by people who do social media specifically. It has made my life really hard, but it's also made me an entity in this space because I'm not like that. And so my whole thing when it comes to next step is come into it with realistic expectations. As a business owner, you need to do some type of digital marketing. You have to be on social media. Whether you like it or not, you have to. And so moving into next steps, have a realistic mindset around what social media will actually do for your business. Understand what content creation looks like, right? Understand that you might not be the expert here, right? Not that we believe in the word expert, but you might not be the expert. So when you are making the decision to work with somebody that is a marketer or a social media manager, social media strategist, ask the right questions. I see, man, I could go on and on about these social media managers. I'm not going to go into that, but just have the realistic expectation of what you're trying to get out of social media and what your goals are. Because I can't even begin to do my job unless somebody does not have a realistic mindset. And if you come to me and you want X amount of whatever in X amount of time, I can't do that for you. So just really educate yourself on what that even looks like and what your intentions are here.
Yeah. And I guess for me, the next steps is I'm more skilled in looking at communication and how you're presenting yourself. And so I'm going to look at your delivery. How can we shift that, like play into your strengths and not your weaknesses? Because I think a big thing is just do this and you try a bunch of things and you're like, but I don't even like doing that. For example, Christina and I talk about, I never really liked going live.
Oh yeah.
On Instagram. Like I would rather just record a podcast.
Same.
But my strength is speaking. It's not like, again, and so it's like fine tuning your delivery, where you're positioning yourself. Like I want to find, again, I'm skilled in like poking holes and like creating solutions for your next step forward. So I'm going to be a few layers deeper than like, before we can get to the strategy, let's get to the problem. Let's get to the root. And then I can guide you from there. So for me, it's just, again, identifying where they feel their gap is or where they feel like sales aren't converting. A lot of times, especially with my clients specifically, they're not consistently asking for the sale. So I'm like, is your gap in marketing or is your gap in selling? I'm going to figure out where that is first. And then we're going to workshop that before you can get to the next piece. If that makes sense.
It all comes down to understanding on both sides.
Yeah.
Kelsey and I do two totally different things, right? Story, you do a totally different thing. But what's the one thing it's like understanding and intention, right? Having realistic expectations, understanding the timeline, things like that. We're in 3 totally different industries, but yet the same thing is true for all of us. You can't work with me until we can get to the root cause and the intention of what we're trying to get to.
And like, where are you trying to go?
Yeah.
Where are you trying to go here? For me, I want to figure out what's your direction. If your direction is simply 10,000 followers, cool. Like we might create a plan that's just like consistent content when you're consistently asking for followers, right? But if your goal is something else, if your goal is more income related, let's figure out why you're not converting. So I'm always like problem solution oriented. And I think that's why we both work so well together, because our skills complement each other.
They do.
So business owners out there, you're probably going, this sounds great. I need to have it happen. Let's make it happen.
Or they have a headache because
or they have a headache because of us.
What way we went today.
Right. If you made it this long. But I challenge you to take that next step. Reach out to one of us. It doesn't matter. We'll guide you in that regard because we are a team as well. But also, if you don't think you have the right financials, if you think that 20% of marketing is too much for your budget, then again, you should probably come talk to me or my colleagues. We can get you certain lending to get you off in marketing. Marketing has to be a part of your business regardless. Don't care what stage, scale, or where you're at in your cycle. You have to have it continuously because every day changes. And so I challenge you to take that next step. Reach out to us. Even if it's on social and you want to blast us or something, we're down. And I just warn you, if you do, we will come for you.
Oh, no.
There's 3 of us.
I'm coming for your
right at you.
I'm coming for your throat.
Straight for your throat. So definitely appreciate both of your time. Yeah, the clap back. Definitely appreciate both your times. If you're listening to this is the end of episode 2 or part 2, you need to go check out part 1 as well. Again, thank you ladies for a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to affect or attempt to affect transactions and securities, or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.